How Google's algorithm made Yahoo's human editors obsolete. In 1994, two Stanford graduate students named Jerry Yang and David Philo created what they called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web from their campus trailer. This humble directory would become Yahoo, and by 1998, it commanded a staggering 95% of the search market, with a market capitalization that peaked at $128 billion during the dot-com boom. Yahoo's approach was elegantly human. An army of over 3,000 professional editors meticulously categorized every website into a massive directory structure, creating what CEO Tim Kugel called the world's first digital city. Users navigated through carefully crafted categories like arts and humanities, then literature, then poetry, then contemporary poetry, until they found exactly what they needed. Yahoo's editors reviewed every single website submission, ensuring quality and relevance in a way that felt personal and trustworthy. The company's headquarters buzzed with librarian-like professionals who spent their days reading websites, writing descriptions, and deciding which category each site belonged in. This human curation was Yahoo's crown jewel, differentiating it from the chaotic, unorganized mess that was the early internet. Wall Street loved this model because it was scalable through hiring, understandable to investors, and generated massive advertising revenue through Yahoo's portal strategy. But 350 miles south, in a Menlo Park garage, two other Stanford PhD students were developing a radically different approach that would make human editors as obsolete as telegraph operators. Larry Page and Sergey Brin's breakthrough came from a simple but revolutionary insight. Instead of having humans decide which websites were important, why not let the websites vote for each other through their links? Their PageRank algorithm, named after Larry Page, treated every link as a vote of confidence, but weighted those votes based on the authority of the linking site. When Stanford's prestigious computer science department linked to a paper, that vote carried more weight than a link from a random personal blog. This mathematical approach could analyze millions of web pages simultaneously, something Yahoo's human editors could never accomplish. Google's algorithm launched in 1998 with a database of 26 million web pages, while Yahoo's carefully curated directory contained only about 200,000 categorized sites. The speed difference was staggering. Google could crawl and index new websites within days, while Yahoo's editorial review process took weeks or months. More importantly, Google's relevance was determined by real user behavior and linking patterns across the entire web, not by the subjective judgment of even the most skilled human editor. Page and Brin's system got smarter with every search query, learning from user clicks and constantly refining its understanding of what people actually wanted, while Yahoo's directory remained static until human editors manually updated it. Yahoo's leadership initially dismissed Google's approach as inferior, believing that human intelligence and editorial judgment were irreplaceable advantages that users would always prefer. Terry Semel, who became Yahoo's CEO in 2001 after leaving Warner Brothers, famously declared that search is not a product, it's a feature, reflecting the company's view that search was just one small component of their comprehensive portal strategy. Yahoo executives argued that their human editors provided superior quality control, eliminating spam and low-quality sites that automated systems couldn't filter out effectively. They pointed to their massive user base, which spent an average of 3.5 hours per month on Yahoo properties in 2002, compared to just minutes on Google's sparse search page. Yahoo's business model seemed unbeatable. Users came for search, stayed for news, email, finance, sports, and entertainment, generating multiple page views and advertising opportunities per visit. The company's directory had become so comprehensive that it included over 2 million categorized sites by 2003, with editors adding thousands more each week. Yahoo's management believed they had built an impregnable moat around their business, combining the best of human curation with the convenience of digital access. They saw Google as a useful technology company that could provide better search results for Yahoo's portal, which is why they initially partnered with Google to power their search results while maintaining their own directory structure alongside. The fatal flaw in Yahoo's strategy became apparent as the internet exploded in size and complexity throughout the early 2000s. By 2004, Google was indexing over 4.3 billion web pages and adding millions more daily, while Yahoo's human editors could only review and categorize a few thousand websites per month. The mathematical impossibility was stark. Even if Yahoo hired 10,000 additional editors, they couldn't keep pace with the internet's exponential growth. But Google's algorithms scaled effortlessly with more powerful computers and refined mathematical models. User behavior data revealed an even more damaging truth. People increasingly preferred Google's simple search box to Yahoo's category browsing, with Google's average search time dropping to under 0.2 seconds, while Yahoo users spent several minutes navigating through directory categories. The quality gap widened as Google's algorithm learned from billions of search queries, understanding user intent and delivering increasingly relevant results, while Yahoo's editors couldn't possibly experience and optimize for every possible search scenario. Google's AdWords system, launched in 2002, proved that algorithmic ad placement based on search intent was far more profitable than Yahoo's traditional banner advertising model, generating over $6 billion in revenue by 2005. Meanwhile, Yahoo's costs continued rising with their editorial staff, real estate, and portal content, while Google's marginal costs per search query approached zero as their technology improved. Yahoo's attempts to compete algorithmically were consistently too little, too late, hampered by their commitment to the human-edited portal model and a series of strategic missteps that would define the company's decline. In 2003, Yahoo acquired Inktomi for $1.63 billion and later Overture for $1.63 billion, attempting to build their own algorithmic search capability. But these acquisitions were never fully integrated into a coherent search strategy that could compete with Google's unified approach. The company's engineering culture clashed with their editorial culture, creating internal conflicts between teams that wanted to automate everything and managers who believed human curation remained their competitive advantage. Yahoo famously passed on acquiring Google twice, first in 1998, when they could have bought the company for under $5 million, and again in 2002 when Google's asking price had risen to $3 billion, but was still a fraction of what the company would become worth. By 2005, Google was processing over 200 million searches daily and had captured 36% of the search market, while Yahoo's share had fallen to 31%, despite years of frenetic hiring and directory expansion. Yahoo's human editors found themselves increasingly irrelevant as users abandoned category browsing for search box queries, and the company began quietly laying off editorial staff while desperately trying to reverse engineer Google's algorithmic approach. The mobile revolution delivered the final blow to Yahoo's human curation model, as smartphones made Google's instant contextual search indispensable, while rendering Yahoo's complex directory structure nearly unusable on small screens. iPhone users, starting in 2007, wanted immediate answers to specific questions, not a browsing experience through carefully organized categories, and Google's algorithm delivered exactly what mobile users needed, with voice search, location awareness, and personalized results. Yahoo's mobile strategy remained focused on recreating their desktop portal experience, complete with news, weather, and email. But users increasingly preferred specialized apps and Google's search functionality integrated throughout the mobile operating system. The data was devastating. By 2010, Google was processing over 3 billion searches daily and controlled 65% of the search market, while Yahoo had fallen to just 17% and was losing ground rapidly among younger, mobile-first users. Google's algorithm had evolved to understand natural language queries, provide instant answers, and integrate with maps, images, and real-time information, while Yahoo's human editors couldn't possibly categorize and organize the billions of web pages, social media posts, and mobile apps that users wanted to search. Yahoo's advertising revenue peaked at $7.2 billion in 2008, then began declining steadily as advertisers followed users to Google's search platform, which offered better targeting, measurement, and return on investment than Yahoo's traditional display advertising model. The human cost of Yahoo's obsolescence was measured not just in market share, but in the careers and livelihoods of thousands of professional editors, librarians, and content curators who found their skills suddenly worthless in an algorithmic world. Yahoo's editorial staff, once the company's proudest asset, was systematically laid off in waves throughout the 2010s as the company desperately cut costs and tried to reinvent itself as a content and advertising platform rather than a search destination. These editors, many with advanced degrees in library science, journalism, and subject matter expertise, discovered that their human intelligence and judgment had been replaced by mathematical formulas that could process information faster, cheaper, and often more accurately than any human could. The broader implications rippled through adjacent industries. Encyclopedia publishers, reference book companies, and traditional media outlets all faced similar algorithmic competition that could deliver more current, comprehensive, and personalized information than human editors. Yahoo's attempt to compete on content rather than search led to expensive acquisitions like Tumblr for $1.1 billion in 2013. But these moves only highlighted how far the company had fallen behind Google's algorithmic approach to organizing and monetizing information. The tragedy wasn't just that Yahoo failed to adapt to algorithmic search, but that they actively resisted it for so long that their window for competitive response had closed completely. By 2015, Yahoo's search market share had collapsed to just 12%, while Google commanded over 64% and was generating annual revenues of $74.5 billion compared to Yahoo's declining $4.9 billion. Yahoo's human-edited directory, once the crown jewel of the early internet, was quietly discontinued in 2014 after 20 years of operation, with barely any media attention or user complaints marking the end of an era. The company's final desperate moves included bringing back former Google executive Marissa Mayer as CEO in 2012, but even her aggressive hiring of engineers and acquisition of startups couldn't overcome the fundamental mathematical reality that algorithms could organize information better than humans at internet scale. Yahoo's core search and advertising business was sold to Verizon for $4.48 billion in 2017. Less than 4% of the company's peak market value, and a fraction of what Google was worth by that time. The remaining parts of Yahoo were merged with AOL, another internet pioneer that had failed to adapt to algorithmic competition, creating a combined entity that was still dwarfed by Google's dominance in search and advertising. Google's algorithm had completely eliminated not just Yahoo's competitive position, but the entire concept of human-edited web directories, proving that mathematical approaches to information organization were superior to human intelligence at internet scale. The Yahoo story represents more than just one company's failure to adapt to new technology. It demonstrates how algorithmic approaches can completely eliminate entire categories of human work and render traditional competitive advantages obsolete almost overnight. Google's mathematical approach to organizing information didn't just compete with Yahoo's human editors, it made them fundamentally unnecessary by solving the same problems faster, cheaper, and better through automated systems that improved continuously. The speed of this transformation was unprecedented in business history. In just over a decade, an industry that had employed thousands of professional editors and generated billions in revenue was completely eliminated by a superior technological approach. Today, Google processes over 8.5 billion searches daily and generates over $280 billion in annual revenue, while the concept of human-edited web directories seems as antiquated as telephone operators or elevator attendants. The lesson for modern businesses is clear. When algorithmic approaches can solve the same problems as human intelligence but with superior scale, speed, and cost efficiency, the human approach doesn't just become uncompetitive, it becomes completely obsolete. Yahoo's army of editors couldn't compete with Google's mathematical approach to organizing information because the algorithm could do their job better than they could, and once that technological threshold was crossed, there was no going back to the human-powered model that had once dominated the internet.